Welcome to the Valley College Connection, where John Kawai and Scott Wigan, two Valley professors, engage in a conversation about success with educators and students. Each week, they'll sit down with a different guest to find out ways each of us have had to plan, persevere, and overcome to where we are now. The show will also highlight resources and services that are working to make a difference at Valley College.
We are joined today by Karla Zeron, Program Manager to the Biotech Bridge Training Academy here at Los Angeles Valley College. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, Karla.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We really appreciate your time and sitting down with us. As we tend to do on this podcast, we'd like to hear about the story as to how you got to Valley College. So if you could please, take it as far back as you'd like to and fill us in on what that journey was like for you in getting here to Valley.
Right. I just want to start by saying that growing up, I came from a very diverse family. My family's from Honduras and we're part Chinese. And my story is I was born in California, but after graduating from kinder, I was actually sent to Honduras with my older brother. So we migrated back to our mother's country. We stayed there for about 5 years. My grandma raised us, and I was able to go to the educational path at Honduras. And I stayed there till the fourth grade. And after the fourth grade, we were brought back to California to live with my mom. During that time, we were held back a year when we came here, placed in ESL classes. I'm still not sure why. But we needed to, relearn English, the culture of being in California. And that's pretty much how I started back in California, my elementary school years.
Karla, can I stop you for just a second to ask a question about what was that experience like in Honduras?
Oh, I thank my mom till this day. I was able to be a kid. I was able to climb trees, run around with my friends outside. And that's one of the challenges when we transitioned back to California is that we were in Honduras and we were running around and just being kids, and then brought back to California where we were stuck in an apartment waiting for my mom to get back from work.
Right.
So, so that was a big transition for us. And, I went back every summer until I was 16. So I still got to experience that in Honduras. And it was just a lovely time for us. And I wouldn't change it for the world. We were away from my mother, but it's just an experience I hope that every kid has, just to be a kid, to have that freedom.
What was the school experience like for those few grades when you were up to your fourth grade there? Do you have vivid memories of that and how different it was or similar to your experience, coming back to California?
I do. So education there is a little bit different. We went to private schools. They were all Catholic private schools. So every day we would, attend school Monday through Friday. We would start with the Catholic prayers, and go through the whole system. And that was a little bit different too. When we transitioned back to California, it was a public school. There was no uniforms. So that was the difference there. And I felt and still feel that, education there is it's a little bit more advanced when it comes to math and all that, because once we transitioned back to California, my brother and I really did well in math. And at that time we were sent to a math and computer camp. And I remember, and I'm about to age myself, we were learning how to use the DOS program in computers. So we were one of the first kids that got to do that. So that was an exciting time for us too. And that was the difference between that education and being here in the USA.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Just interesting and helpful context. And so you, as you noted before, you came back to California and were placed in the ESL classes and sort of started there. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I remember being with different students from different ethnicities and trying to learn English. But we had a really good teacher, Mr. Lewis, who really took us under his wing, a group of us, and we were able to excel because of him. And that's pretty much what my education has been like. It's people like Mr. Lewis who just took us underneath their wing. So, middle school was okay. I did well, but high school is where I found very challenging. I stopped going to class, I think in 10th grade. At one point, I remember it was my junior year. I used to not attend class. I used to ditch a lot. And at one point I wanted to go back, and I had 62 days consecutively that I did not go to school. And because of that, once I went back, they decided to take me out of the system, and I was on my own. They tried to put me in a continuation school, and that didn't work out for me. So I didn't graduate from high school. I didn't get my diploma from high school because of that.
What was the inciting event that caused you to stop going to school?
I don't know. It must have been the group that I was hanging out with. We were ninth graders. We started hanging out with 12th graders. And I think my family life wasn't really supportive at the time. It was a little bit harder when we transitioned back because we had been away from my mother. So we had to rebuild in that relationship. So I remember not wanting to go to school and just wanting to be out exploring and having adventures. But at one point I hit the wall where I wanted to go back to education, wanted to go back to my classes, but I wasn't able to, unfortunately.
So what happened after you stopped the continuation school?
So at that time I was about to turn 18 years old. I moved to Burbank, tried to enroll myself because I was on my own at that time. I tried to enroll myself to the high school, was told because I was turning 18, I wasn't able to. So they referred me to Burbank Adult School. I did a few classes there. And like I said, I was on my own. I left home when I was maybe 17 and a half. I had to work, had to pay rent, and started working at the warehouse, which used to sell, music, records, cassettes. And CD was a big thing at the time. So I was working there for a while. And then
the warehouse. I was thinking like what warehouse? I was thinking like Tower Records versus the warehouse. Okay.
Yes. It was a great place to be. It was in Burbank, so we got to see a lot of the people from the studios that would come in. So that was a lot of fun. I had a great time. It's, my 18, 19. Then I met someone, got married, had my oldest child, my daughter, and then got divorced pretty quick. So I was a single mom at a very young age. I must have been 22 years old when I was a single mom. Had to work. Then I found a job working for an embroidery company. I used to do payroll, used to do everything that had to do with the office, administrative work. And that was a great time. And that really showed me what college was about. Growing up, I was told you need to go to college, but I was never told why and how. But this company that I used to work for was owned by a Jewish family, and college was very, very big for them. And I got to see their children go through the process of graduating high school, applying for colleges, which I had never experienced before. And I remember my boss one time said, my son needs to study today. And I said, does he have a test coming up? And he said, no, he just needs to study. My idea of studying is just right before a test. But they, education, like I said, was a very big thing for them. So it taught me a lot of how other cultures see education and how they really teach their family members how to go to school and how, what they need to do to be successful in it too.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So then, how long was it before you decided to go back to school? Were you at that embroidery job for a long time?
I was there for 8 years. I wanted to go back to school. And the funny thing is that I used to have actual dreams of finishing school. And there would be, I would have dreams all the time that I needed to finish school. So 2007, I went back to Valley College. I met with a counselor and was told, because I was a single parent, that I needed to go to a trade school. Needless to say, I left that meeting heartbroken, felt hopeless, because I really wanted to have an education. But, at that time, what I was told, it broke my heart. It took me about 4 to 5 years to get over that. And I went back to school. I think it was 2011. And it was sort of like a serendipity, really, where everything the puzzles were fitting together. And it worked out really, really great for me going back to school during that time. I remember my first time meeting with a counselor. I said I have a lot of problems with math. She handed me a flyer for the summer STEM program where I met you, Dr. Kawai. So she gave me that flyer. I applied and took the summer STEM program, was there for the summer. And really, that's the time where my life changed. And I tell this to the students all the time. I was sitting in class. Miguel Saldoval, which is the counselor at EOPS, he comes in and he's doing a presentation to us. And the first thing that pops up in one of the slides is, "Who are you?" And I thought to myself, how is he going to tell me who I am? I'm already, an older person going back to school. I know who I was. But I was open to what he was going to say. And during his presentation, he talked about the resources on campus. He talked about EOPS and he talked about TRIO. And I was really intrigued by TRIO. So after class, I walked myself to TRIO to inquire what it was really about. How can I be, a student under TRIO? I applied, was accepted, and that's really when everything just opened up for my educational path.
So what was it that TRIO did for you that made it so helpful?
Well, I met with Jose Hernandez, which was the counselor at the time. I met with him, no big deal. We talked about my plans, my goals. Several days later, I was sitting in TRIO using the computers, and he walks in and he says, "Hi, Karla, how are you? How are your daughters?" And I was taken back because he called me by my name. I even looked around to make sure maybe he's speaking to someone else. Because at that time, I just felt like a student, just going to class and being invisible, really. But Jose, knowing my name, really, it changed something in me. And I don't know what it was, but just acknowledging me and my story, it was such a strong gesture that it really changed my outlook, in the educational path. From that point, I became really open to being vulnerable with people. With him, I would go to his office and really talk about my story, what I really wanted to do. And because of that, I was able to build that relationship with him, with Miguel, with you, Dr. Kawai, because just being in your class too, it really changed me. It really made me see how professors can be profound support system for the students. And that was really the first time I've ever experienced that. You really took the time to really understand how I learned and you taught it that way for me when I needed, when I would go visit you. And all that just really, I can't even explain what it really did to me, but for me. But from that point, I really learned how to advocate, look for resources, and really build that community within Valley College with the professors, the counselors, and the students. I really found a community with students with parents at Trio. We all used to study together, go to lab, math lab together. And so it really changed my trajectory of my educational path. I was able to graduate. I applied to, the UC system, to Cal State. I was offered a better package from UCI, financial package. And at that time, I was having a hard time because I knew if I were to, accept UCI, I needed to move to campus. And at that time, I was with my youngest daughter. My oldest daughter had gone off to college herself. So I went through the whole process of transferring and, looking for a place to live in Irvine. I applied to the campus family housing. I was told no when I first called, and I didn't take no for an answer. So I called and called people, and until somebody heard my story and really helped us out and was able to find us a 2-bedroom apartment in their housing on campus. So that was very helpful too.
Well, I think you said something really important about who you are, is that you didn't take no for an answer.
Yes.
And it was really easy to help you as a student because you told me what you needed. Yes. Right? And yes, that was a big thing. Like, you took time off to say, this is what I need. This is what I don't know. What do I do next? Right. And I think the advocacy you had for yourself was a big deal.
And yeah, go ahead.
So tell me about the IOP group, the support group with students with kids.
So that really started at Valley College, where I, became part of that community, and I wanted to transfer that to UCI. So UCI, I knew I needed to have childcare. So once again, I started calling the campus childcare. First, they said no to me, but of course, I didn't take no for an answer. I kept persisting, and they finally accepted my daughter. Then I wanted to really find that community. So I moved the summer before the classes started and started looking for that community. I went to the transfer center, and I was referred to a group of students that were trying to build that campus organization, students with dependents. We got in touch. I became the president of that campus organization, and together with another person, we really started bringing awareness. We talked to anybody who was willing to listen to us, professors, administrative, deans, anybody that was willing to listen. We talked about our challenges as a population. And it took about 2 years before it got picked up by Student Support Services. And I remember somebody asking me, why are you working so hard to get recognized as a population when you're graduating? And to me, it wasn't about just me. It was about the population itself. There's a lot of challenges that come being a single parent or a parent, period, and being in education. Lack of support, of awareness on campus. So when Student Support Services picked it up, we were really excited. It was the very last year that I was attending UCI. And so I got to be the peer educator for that group. So I was really, really involved. I was working for this transfer center at the time. So I was getting paid and doing what I loved, supporting my population and anybody with dependents. And that's really where my journey started to really want to become a counselor in higher education.
So what was the difference between having the university support it and not supported? Was it funding, or was it staff or resources?
All of it. It was really awareness that this group existed. At that time, it wasn't really well known. You know, as time has gone by, I see that there's more awareness on campuses, especially Valley College with the Family Resource Center. But it was just knowing that we were there and that we were facing challenges and speaking up, really. And that's exactly what we did. We spoke to anybody that was willing to hear us.
And then what kind of services did you provide to the students who were associated with it?
Mainly guidance of how to succeed. You know, as a single parent, I really helped them with childcare. I really connected with the social workers of the campus. There were 3 at the time. Had a really good relationship with them. And if a parent would come up and say, I'm, facing this, so I would connect them with the social workers or whatever resource I thought would be beneficial to them, to their success. So it was really a supportive entity, with guidance of, my experience with other experiences that we had as a group, and just having that actual location that we can meet at, because before we were trying to meet anywhere that was open or at one of our apartments, but after the student support services picked it up, we were able to meet at their location and utilize their resources that they had at the center.
Oh, that's amazing. I think in the past, even at Valley College, I think we focused too much on 18-year-olds coming out of college.
Right.
And that's really not even the majority population coming into the school anymore.
Yes.
And I think we finally have really started looking at the students that are non-traditional students that are over 25 and sort of the issues that develop because of that. I remember I was one of those students, and the real hard thing for me was juggling rent and school.
Yes. Yes.
Like it's just, go ahead.
It wasn't easy. Some of the classes I try to stay away from the afternoon classes because I know childcare would close at 6, but there was a couple of times where classes would end after 6. And so I became very good at talking with the professors and really allowing them to know my story, and they understood. I developed a format that I told students to do, sit in the front. The first day, introduce yourself to the professor, and that's it. Just say, my name is Karla. I'm glad to be taking your class, and that's it. And a week later, go to office hours, tell them your story, tell them what, your background and your responsibilities. And that formula really worked well for me. These professors, when I would tell them, look, childcare is closing at 6, can I leave? And all of them said yes to me. I was able to leave early, pick up my child. Sometimes I would be running the last 4 minutes before 6 o'clock to the childcare, but I did what I had to do to make it work. And so, yeah, all that really prepared me to be a counselor and to really work with students with different, challenges, because I pretty much faced a lot of challenges at UCI and at LAVC too.
Karla, how did you sort of come to the decision, or was the decision already made as you were finishing up your undergrad work at UCI that this is the trajectory then, that you want to go into counseling and pursue your graduate degree, or was there any time in between graduating where you were sort of making that decision?
It really started at LAVC with that, community that we had built with the student parents. I used to be the one that they would go to find out about resources, because like I said earlier, I really learned to advocate and find resources on the campus. So I found myself really just guiding people. And I took that with me to UCI, and, creating that, school organization, campus organization really helped. And I was able to work my second year there. I worked with student support services as a peer educator. So I did some counseling there, did workshops, helped the students with different things. I met one-on-one with students, and then I worked with this transfer student support center. Same thing, worked one-on-one with students, was able to give guidance, whether it was about how to connect with professors or what is my learning style. We did different, themes for students, and that's where I really learned. I love doing this, and really, going back to LAVC, Jose Hernandez, really, if it wasn't for the trio and Jose Hernandez, I honestly don't think I would have a master's degree at this point. That program was such a supportive program, and they really supported me learning about applying to schools, why I needed to go to school, how to do it. And I want to do that. I want to do that for people who don't necessarily have that support system at home, not because the families don't want to support them. It's because they don't know. Just like I was told, you need to go to college, but they wouldn't tell me how. I want to teach, people that don't have that background and let them know you can do this. And this is the path that you need to take. So that's really, it started at LAVC, but it really developed at UCI when I was working with, both populations, and really just, being a peer educator to them during the 2 years that I was there.
It's such a compelling kind of, story and narrative, because you shared at first how in 2007, when you came to Valley, you had this negative experience with a counselor who essentially, really sort of squashed your sense of what was possible. And then to come back in 2011 and connect with Miguel and then Jose and sort of have the other end of the spectrum about what's possible. And then to have that along with all the advocacy for parents, student parents to lead you to UCI. It's such an inspiring story.
Thank you.
How did you then, where did you end up going to graduate school? What was that experience like?
So I decided to stay a third year at UCI because I really wanted to enjoy it. I didn't get to enjoy it because 2 years just went too fast. And, being a single parent, working, going to school was a lot. So the third year, I told my boss, Kevin Huey, I'm staying a third year. I really want to explore the idea of graduate school, but never in my mind before UCI did I ever think that, graduate school was my path. Going into UCI, I didn't know the difference between undergrad and graduate students. That's how disconnected I was. So during that year, Kevin Huey and the staff members there really helped me learn about graduate school. I applied to Cal Poly. It was the only school I really wanted to go at San Luis Obispo. So I applied there, did the interview. Out of 100 and plus students, candidates, only 17 of us got accepted. And so I was really excited. Once again, I needed to uproot my younger daughter and myself to a different city, different campus. So we moved to San Luis Obispo a summer before the classes started. But an exciting story to that was, as I was graduating UCI, my oldest daughter was attending UC Santa Cruz. So I graduated one Saturday. The following Saturday, we attended her graduation at UC Santa Cruz. So I remember one of the first things I told her is when I graduated, I said, "You're no longer the first generation, right?" Mm-hmm. So we had a laugh, but it was a different experience to be going to school at the same time, 6 hours away from each other. And I would talk to her sometimes. I would call her and say, this is happening in this class. And it was so neat to have my daughter really understand or myself understand her experience as a student because we were both doing it at the same time.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how was your experience at Cal Poly Pomona? Cal Poly San Luis Obispo?
The word I would use would say rough. So, you know, up to this point, I was really guided. But once I got to Cal Poly, there was no guidance there anymore. There was no support at all. So once again, I did the same thing I've done with other schools. I tried to look for support for student parents, for anything that I can, you know, lash onto and have a community. There was really nothing there. Cal Poly San Luis Obispo is really more of a traditional student population. So being a re-entry student, single parent was really different. It was rough. It wasn't really diverse either. But, you know, I had 2 years and I knew I had to just push on. It was rough. Every single quarter, I had to find a new childcare, because the classes were in the evening. So every quarter I had to find somebody who can pick up my daughter from her school and take care of her at our house. So that was really challenging also. And I think Cal Poly during my graduate program was one of the hardest of all my educational path. But I'm glad I did it. You know, it was a wonderful program, wonderful colleagues and classmates. And during that time, I got to work with, you know, first year success program where the students were on probation for the first quarter, got to, you know, counsel them during their time, got to work for the New Dream Center at Cresta Community College there. So I learned a lot. I worked also with the homeless population. And I think during that time, the homeless population working, you know, there really helped me understand the basic needs of students, because we did have students that would come through our center. And because I was attending, you know, Cal Poly, I was able to really connect with them and really help them out. And so that really woke me up really at how many of our students are housing insecurity, you know, food insecurity. So that I was glad that I was able to work with the homeless population there too.
So then was San Luis Obispo, was that a commuter school or did students dorm on campus?
No, they dorm on campus. I found an apartment outside, which is, I was very lucky to find a low income apartment. Apartments are very expensive there, but I had a 3-bedroom, and I was able to afford it with financial aid. So I was very lucky, very fortunate.
So what happened after San Luis Obispo?
So I graduated there, and I couldn't wait to get back home. I needed to be near my family. I had no family support there, no institutional support. So 2 years, I've had enough. So I came back home. Didn't work for 6 months. It took me a while to really acclimate back to, you know, living down here. I started looking for work and was told, you know, becoming a counselor is really hard. Getting your foot in the door. And I was told, you're not going to be able to do it. It's going to take you 5 years. And hearing that just kind of lit a fire. And I said, no, there's no way. I need to do something. So I connected with people. My resume ended up with Ellie from CalWorks. Ellie Rabani, right. Thank you for that. And she sent my resume to Doug Marriott at the Workforce Training Department. And that's how I was able to get an interview with that department. So networking, it's one of the biggest things I tell my students, network, you know, because you never know where your resume is going to end up. And that's how I got my foot in the door at Valley College. And I love working at Valley. I've always wanted to come back to Valley because I graduated from there. This is my home. And how lucky am I to be working at a place where it gave me so much, and now to be doing that, paying it forward to the students there.
I know. I love seeing you on campus.
Yeah.
Every time I see you on campus, you just make me so happy. So let me ask this. What is your role at Valley College now?
So I'm the program manager to the Biotech Bridge Training Academy under the Workforce Training Department. What we do is we train individuals for 6 weeks for the role of a biomanufacturing technician 1. A lot of our students work with pharmaceutical companies, Thermo Fisher, Grifols, Pharmabite. So we train them for the 6 weeks. They graduate, receive a certificate of accomplishment, and then we help them with, job leads. And so we've been very fortunate to have a lot of success with our students. And, I love my job. There's nothing I'd rather be doing than working with students.
And what are the demographics of the students who are taking these courses?
So the good thing is that we're open to the public. It's not just for the population, it's for the public too. So the new trend, when I first started, it was mainly people who were displaced, underemployed, or unemployed, who were looking for, short-term training. So that's how when I started, that's who we were recruiting from. But we've seen a trend in the last year where a lot of the students with degrees are not able to get their foot in the door. So they are now coming back to community colleges and finding programs like what we offer at our department. And so I have both people with degrees and people from our community that, don't really have the educational background. And from all ages, it's open to the public.
So this is the first stepping stone into the economy then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you know what the other types of programs we have for workforce training?
Yeah, so we have manufacturing CNC machinery that's run by Roberto Gutierrez. Also 6 weeks. You're trained to work on, the machinery, the CNC machinery. We have the Boda Academy, which trains for 2 weeks to become a bus driver for Metro. After the 2 weeks that the students are with us, they transfer to the Metro training department, and they train with Metro, I believe, for 6 weeks, and they get paid during that time. So that's really good. We also have extensions, and I know paralegal department, paralegal program, and I know you've connected with Arnold, Jonathan Arnold before. So that's another great one that we have there. What's really good about our department, we have our own counselor, adult ed counselor, which is Stephanie Mesa. She's really good. She really has a passion to connect with our students, and she connects with the community and for the students. The other thing that's really great about our department is that we have a community career developer. They're really, her name is Carleen Gepner and Ginger Blatton. They really help people, the community, with finding jobs. So it's for the students, and it's also for anybody in our community that can walk into our department and speak to one of them and let them know that they're looking for work, and they will work miracles, as I always say, and really help our community find jobs.
Fantastic programs. It's great to hear, information about it from your side. And as you noted, we'd spoken with Jonathan Arnold a ways back, and so had that opportunity to sort of hear about it from him too. Can you speak a little bit too about just perhaps the aspect or value of employability for students after completing the program?
Yeah. So right now, as I mentioned, there's a trend of having people with degrees coming back to us. I've had 2 students that really stand out. I had one student who had been looking for work for 7 months after she graduated. She wasn't able to, so she found our academy, joined, really worked hard during the 6 weeks. She was employed 2 weeks after she graduated. That's not going to happen to everybody, but it does happen often. We had another person who similar thing, where couldn't find a job, was able to go through our academy and was able to find employment. The last cohort we just graduated in August were 14 students. 13 since August have been placed. Wow, so there's, the rate is pretty high because of COVID-19, also because there is a high demand right now with the pharmaceutical companies. They're all looking for people who are, want to go into that field. So we've seen a higher rate of employment there too. So it's a great academy to get your foot in the door. And even though we train individuals in, entry level role of biomanufacturing tech 1, we have people that have degrees in engineering, chemical engineering, lab techs. They come through our program. They meet with our partner employers. Some of them are placed within the manufacturing area, but a lot of them are placed where they really have that background. So the companies that we work for really look at that resume and really, talk to them during their interview. And if they feel they are better fit somewhere else, they'll place them somewhere else. So we've seen that a lot too.
That's fantastic. I mean, the number of students who are finding careers after completing, the academies, those are fantastic numbers. And it's such an opportunity for students because now they're part of, the Valley College umbrella, working through a program, and then it always opens the doors to opportunities for other programs at the college. Then a lot of times, so many folks in the community aren't aware of everything that the college provides and offers.
Right. And my partner and I, my coworker, we've tried to really bring awareness to campus. A lot of the counselors don't know that, we have these academies on campus. So we've tried to do the welcome week, do tabling and really, bring awareness to the campus and to the students. You could do a short-term training while you're still in school. If you're taking a break during your summer, why not do an academy that can really, move you forward in a new career? And, these aren't jobs. These are actual careers. And that's really what's important.
Yeah. So we've had students who want to become lawyers, become paralegals.
Right.
So they could be employed while they go back to school, while they continue with school.
Yes.
And I think the other thing too is that whenever I have students who can't pass my math class, workforce training, CTE are probably the best places to go because you don't require any of that.
Yes.
You're just focused on what gets you your job, and let's just work on that. And there's no English, there's no math, there's no extra.
Right.
There's no fat to it.
Right.
So if you were to talk to a young Karla who has started this whole process, what advice would you give her to make the whole process, to make the journey easier?
Advocate for yourself. Really look for resources. One of the things that I learned as a graduate student is we, as an institution, a UC system or Cal State or, undergrad, really need to teach our students life after graduation. Because when I went to Cal Poly, I was still a first generation, but a student, but I wasn't treated as one. So that support, it needs to go out through the educational path. So if you don't find that, really advocate for yourself, look for those resources, look for a community, and don't take no for an answer, because it's easier for people to say no than to have to really do their own research and see how they can help you. Keep persisting and really, if there's a goal in life that you really want to reach, just keep at it, really. I didn't know I wanted to, go to graduate school, but as I was at UCI, I learned that I wanted to do it, and I did everything possible to get there, and I did. And even though it was very, very challenging, I'm so glad I went through all that, because now I can, help students that are going through the same thing. So not only do I counsel the students while they're at Valley College, I also let them know this is what you need to do to be successful when you transfer and when you go to graduate school. Because, you don't stop being a first generation just because you graduate with an undergrad degree.
Karla, what would you suggest if students want to find out more information about the Biotech Academy, or if they want to connect with you? Is there should they Google Biotech at Valley College? Is there a particular email address? What would you recommend?
Well, I'm happy to take emails. My email address is Z as in zebra, ERONKP at lavc.edu, or, they can just Valley College, Google it, and they'll find the Biotech Academy through that, which can lead them into our main page where all the other academies will show up also.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us. It's just a joy to catch up with you again.
Oh, it's been wonderful. And, thank you for everything that you've done for me. When I graduate UCI, I put everybody that helped me get there on my graduation cap, and you were one of them. And so was Jose Hernandez from Trio. So I'm and also Professor Southgate was there, and I know you've had her on the podcast before. So thank you for, always supporting us. And I just hope I can do that for people moving forward, being able to support them as well.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure you are already. You're just a wonderful person. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karla.
Thank you for having me.